It's taking an extra 5 minutes and just, I recommend, obviously as a hypnotherapist, I'm big into like meditation or any of that type of things. Just really let yourself go to a peaceful state for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour commitment, right? It's just a few minutes to rebalance yourself and to calm your entire system, because you're living on high alert, right? Even if you're having a good day, you're like, the other shoe's going to drop, something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You never believe it. So it's just allowing yourself to kind of find the 5 minutes of calm, even though the chaos is still happening, because for a lot of us, the chaos is going to continue to happen.
It will.
Yeah. And so you just really need to find some space for yourself. And again, I really like to focus on, it doesn't have to be 3 hours.
Welcome to A Sister's Love, the podcast that helps women who are healing by having those deep conversations, giving practical advice and words of encouragement. Come on, let's talk about it.
Hello, my beautiful sisters. So welcome to another episode of A Sister's Love podcast. On today's episode of A Sister's Love podcast, we have a guest. Her name is Rayne, and she is discussing the struggles that she had been facing raising a child with mental health, and giving us some resources, some tips to help other mothers who are going through the same exact thing. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself. I am Rose Jones, and I'm your host here at A Sister's Love podcast. And I am just a woman trying to inspire other women through my story of dealing with domestic violence, battling PTSD, and self-hate. And I am just trying to keep it real about the struggles that I am facing and the struggles of other women that are facing trauma is going through. And my goals for this podcast is to create a safe place for women to heal and tell their story. So if you're looking for a safe place to heal, then you are in the right place. I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss another episode of A Sister's Love podcast. I have a wonderful guest here today. Her name is Rayne, and I would love for you to introduce yourself and let the listeners know a little bit more about you and what you do and why you're here today.
Yes, well, my name is Rayne. I am a hypnotherapist. I am also a Reiki master and a physical therapist. And I currently focus my business on helping moms who are dealing with children going through mental health troubles. So, if your child has anxiety or depression or OCD or, a lot of kids are on the spectrum, and really just focusing on the parents and their journey through that, because it's not just about the children. There's a lot of effort and a lot of emphasis on the children, obviously, to get them better and to get them the help they need. But during that time, often the moms take on the brunt of that burden, right? And their mental health falls to the wayside, and their anxiety gets worse, and their insomnia. And so it's really focusing on the moms, getting them the help they need so that they can really show up for their kids in the best way possible.
What got you started in doing that work?
So my daughter has OCD. I have 3 kids. My middle child has OCD, anxiety, depression, all of those things. And when she first started with all of that, it was very time consuming. There was school refusal, doctor's appointments, different programs. So my life just became completely wrapped around her treatment. I left my job as a physical therapist. It was just 24 hours her. And I have 2 other children, so the impact that it has on the entire family and the other kids is really hard. And as I kind of saw the light at the end of that tunnel and came to the other side of it, where she's doing better and needs less of me, I realized how lacking my support was, and really just wanted to provide that for other mothers.
I totally understand. I have a son with ADHD.
Okay. Yep.
And it's a lot. It's a lot of work, especially when it comes to school. Like, you're in and out meetings every day, trying to get people to understand what's going on with the child, like explaining to each teacher pretty much what's going on, what your child needs, and adapting, trying to ask them to try to adapt to your child. And not like me, I didn't take, like, they keep recommending for my child to go into special needs class. I'm like, well, he's have ADHD. He doesn't have a learning disability. Those classes are people with learning disabilities or real bad behavior issues. Like, you're going to make my son fall all the way behind just because he's a little bit different and just require a little bit of different effort. So it's like a constant fight with the school system to keep my son where I want him to be so that he can develop educationally just like he is as at his age range. And they just wanted him, like, I know for a fact that most special education classes, they're like 2 years behind. So even though he's in 8th grade, he will be learning 6th grade information because they don't have time to fully focus on exactly what's going on, but they're too busy worrying about the behavior situation or the educational person. So most of the time you're in that classroom, they're not actually focused on education. It's pretty much more like a babysitting situation, and they'll just tap in to educational stuff whenever they have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to become the advocate.
Very,
and
very.
It's time consuming and stressful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot. Like, my son he's in 8th grade and he's going into high school right now. So it's like a transition. So he's been in the same school. Now I have to transition to another school and have to get them on my side.
Start all over. Yeah.
All over again. It's a constant thing. And then my son, he started off on medication, but as he got older, he didn't like it. And now he has to say so. So we removed the medication, and it's a little more challenging. And again, the school is against me. Like, well, we want him on medication. I'm like, well, it's his body, his person. So he has to say so. And it's like another battle. Like, it's a lot that us parents go through that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going through. So what was like the biggest thing that you think is important for women to do when they do deal with their kids, for themselves, when they are dealing with kids that have mental issues?
Yeah, I think that when you're in the middle of it and all of your emphasis is on your children, I know people would tell me, they're like, you need to go to therapy, you need to get support for yourself. And I was like, well, I have 5 free minutes. I want to spend it in more therapy, right? I'm in so much therapy for her. I'm in therapy for my other children so that they can deal with her. Like, and as a mother, you put yourself last. And I'm like, no, if I have 5 free minutes, I just want to shower. Like, I just want alone time. I don't want to take care of my mental health. But the reality is you really have to, because the more you take care of yourself, it does trickle down to your children, right? It's easier for you to take care of them. But I think the biggest mistake is that when you're in the mix of it, it's so hard to take that step to get help for yourself. It's also so important.
It is. It's like you don't realize you need to take a break. You just want to get it done. And like, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. It's better if I lose 2 hours or 3 hours of sleep and it's done, instead of trying to get the 3 hours of sleep and then wake up to more. Yep. So I definitely understand that. Yeah. So what are some ways that you suggest for them to actually tap into their own mental health and tap into things to take care of themselves while they're in the mix of this?
Yeah. So one of the things is just taking the time to step away, even if it's 5 minutes, right? Even if it's leaving the childcare up to somebody else for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and not taking a shower when all you're doing is crying because you're just letting it out. But after you do that, right? Because that's what everybody does. It's taking an extra 5 minutes and just, I recommend, obviously as a hypnotherapist, I'm big into like meditation or any of that type of things. Just really let yourself go to a peaceful state for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour commitment, right? It's just a few minutes to rebalance yourself and to calm your entire system, because you're living on high alert, right? Even if you're having a good day, you're like, the other shoe's going to drop, something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You never believe it. So it's just allowing yourself to kind of find the 5 minutes of calm, even though the chaos is still happening, because for a lot of us, the chaos is going to continue to happen.
It will.
Yeah. And so you just really need to find some space for yourself. And again, I really like to focus on, it doesn't have to be 3 hours. You don't have to go to a 2-hour yoga class, just finding moments when you can to allow yourself to just calm down and relax.
For me, I just want sleep. Like can I just get a 5-minute nap? Like the biggest thing is like I deprive myself of sleep because I work a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing my business and then I'm taking care of the kids. So like I don't get sleep. So I don't know if I can get a 5-minute nap, but I know it's some meditations that's out there that's like you can like it's a meditation that make it feel like you got hours of sleep.
Yeah. There's definitely, you can play with time, but also it's the quality, right? So
yeah.
Again, if you can get yourself into a relaxed state and get better quality sleep, where you're not waking up at every little sound because you're like, oh my God, what is that? What are they up to now? What's going on? What do they need? Who's crying? Right? Like just allowing yourself to really sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge because I have mommy ears, so I can hear.
I think we all do. You hear everything.
Everything.
And you don't need to.
Yeah.
And you don't need to, right?
Don't mean to. Like kids like, well, I'm like, I heard that. I heard your whole conversation. And like, you were asleep. I'm like, I heard it. I can tell them back to exactly word for word, like how mommy was asleep. I said, I heard you. Like,
yeah.
It's just I don't know how to turn that off.
Yeah.
Just hard to turn that off. Like having that moment of just true peace. Like,
yes,
we have to find a way to tap into that.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of what that's what I focus on. That and getting rid of the guilt. I think mom guilt's another huge one, is just letting that go. Let's
talk about that. Can you give me a little more insight on that when you talk about guilt?
I think every mom has mom guilt, right? It's a phrase for a reason. And I feel like when your child has any type of issues, mental health issues, physical issues, the mom guilt is just that much more intense, right? It's almost like mom guilt on steroids when we have a child with issues, because it's like, well, what did I do? Well, maybe if I did this different, or, oh my God, did I do something when I was pregnant? Or is this genetic, right? Like there's all these components that are added on in addition to your regular, oh my God, I yelled at my kid today, right? So yeah. I just feel like it's just so much more extreme, and it's consuming to a lot of people, where you're just stuck in that cycle of feeling guilty and being overwhelmed, which can lead to the more depression and insomnia, and it all just cycles. So, I like to work on releasing some of the guilt, just learning how to let it go, because there isn't anything you can do about, obviously. It is what it is, right? You're at this point where it is what it is. And, just that radical acceptance of, excuse me.
It's all right.
That radical acceptance of like, this is where we are. This is what we are dealing with. Let's just keep going, and it's easier said than done.
So
right? I think we all do that.
Like acceptance. So move from guilt to acceptance. Like,
yeah,
this is what it is. We don't know what caused it to be what it is. It's nothing I can do to change what it is. But
so just let it go.
Let's just I accept this is what it is, and let's let it go and just move forward in what I can control.
Yes.
So just walking in a space of, okay, I know this is what's in my power, and there's no reason for me to hold on to things that I have no control over. Yeah. And I agree with that guilt, especially the guilt, because I'm like, because I thought about it like this, like a lot of people like, oh, you should know who you have kids with. You should do a DNA. You're supposed to do all this stuff before you have kids with people. You're supposed to know their family lineage, all their diseases is running their family, and you got to know all your family lineage and then see if it's compatible and stuff like that. Who does that? Who really sits there and takes the time? It's like, oh, I can't fall in love with you today. We
Right.
can't because it's a 1.6789% that our kid might come out with a disability. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of stuff that goes into it that people think like, oh, I could have. It is possible. We have these research to see if this is going to happen. But love. It's a love child. So just see your child as a love child. Like we created this child out of love. So it's a reason why this child is here and is here to bless our life. And even though it seemed like it's making our life a little difficult, it's here for a reason. It's teaching us something that we didn't have before. So just find a purpose and why God blessed you with this child. And maybe that'll make it easier too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, that's what I have to say. Like, I feel like with my son with ADHD, I have a lot of issues with consistency and discipline. Oh, he taught me I had to teach him to be disciplined and consistent for him to stay on track. So I had to learn it myself. So definitely need some lessons. So
they do.
They challenge you to step up and do what you need to do for yourself so that you can teach them what they have to do. Because you can't teach somebody something that you don't know. Like, well, this is what you're supposed to know. Now we're both in school at the same time. We're learning everything. I tell my kids, like, I feel like I have 4 kids and I have my other one, she's 6. I'm like, this is my 3rd time doing 8th grade. I got this. Like, I got this. But I think I'd be having it. But each 8th grade was different. Like,
of course.
Each one was different. Each one is different.
They change it.
They change it. They definitely change it.
Yeah.
When we talking now go back to the guilt. When, like, can you give us like some of the practices or any tips or anything to do with it when it comes to the guilt to help them kind of release it?
Yeah. So what I do is through hypnosis, right? I don't know if you know much about hypnotherapy. It's similar to guided meditation, right? So a lot of it is it's relaxation, it's imagery, it's using your imagination when you're in that state. And there's different ways you can do it, but essentially it's like visualizing your guilt as something substantial, something physical, and then visualizing yourself letting it go, right? So that's how I generally work through it with people, depending on what the cause of the guilt is. So once you do something like that, people will be like, oh, I had this aha moment is the biggest thing, right? Like, oh, I had this moment of enlightenment where I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. And something shifts. And that's kind of how it works. So I also do regression therapy, which is like talk therapy. So sometimes the guilt isn't really about what you think it's about, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's a deeper layer of something that you might have to work on. But it is definitely something that's doable. It's something that, can be done. I feel like people, again, it's that everybody's slightly different, but it's that aha moment that, say anxiety, for instance. Oh, I can control my anxiety. Wait a minute. It's not an external factor controlling me, right? And that moment of clarity kind of shifts the way you look at things. And I think guilt is the same thing. So when you feel yourself feeling guilty about something, when you shift your thoughts about it, your perspective around it, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't need to feel guilty about this. I'm not even going to pick it up. I'm just going to let it go, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like guilt and depression and stuff is like past, and like anxiety is future. So the biggest thing is navigating someone into the present. Yeah. So like, we're not going to stay in the past, or we're not going to worry about the future. We're going to sit in the present moment and try to work through it here. We're here now. We're no longer there. We're not going to be there yet. We don't even know if that's going to even happen. So we're not even going to worry about what might happen. We're in control of what's happening right now. And I was reading something. It was like, our thoughts, we think our thoughts are the biggest controller of our life, which is true. but our actions can actually align with our thoughts. So if you want a different future, you have to do the actions today for that future. If you have an anxiety about a situation, you do the actions today so that that future won't come true tomorrow. Like that bad future, if you're thinking something bad, you just try to align actions today to reflect something different tomorrow. You know, it's like, oh, this not going to happen, but I'm anxiety about this. Maybe I should do this and this and this today so that this won't happen. So it can ease some of the anxiety of what's going on in your mind and stuff like that. Yes, things like just small little baby steps that you can do to try to navigate your thinking, because it's most of all of this stuff is just the way we're thinking and the way we're perceiving our life. Like we're perceiving our life to be horrible. Like I'm doomed or I'm confined to this life because I have this child and I can't abandon this child. So now I am the primary caretaker. I have to do this, I have to do that. Instead of looking at a joyful situation, like this is a joyful thing. I get to experience this child. Nobody else in this world had the ability to experience this child because God blessed me with this child. So just see it as perspective. God blessed me with this child for a reason. Why? And then explore it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Definitely. We live in a world of like different perspective, and we are in control of our perspective. It's like you either can see the good or the bad, and you have to choose. We definitely have to choose how we see the light in each situation. Each situation that we have, it might feel like dark, but it's always a spectrum. Like it's dark, it's lightness and dark. So we just have to find it. Definitely. So can you talk about like the biggest challenges or struggles that you have when you do talk to these moms or do the meditations and stuff with the moms? Well, hypnotherapy. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing is getting mothers in this situation to commit time and energy to themselves. Right. So if I do a hypnotherapy session with somebody, generally we do it in the present, like me and you talking, and then I send them a recording of it so that they can listen to the message over and over again. And so it's kind of like homework. And these recordings, so it's 20 to 30 minutes. It's not a long recording. You can listen to them before you go to bed at night. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment, but you do have to do it. Right. Yeah. So I think the biggest struggle is getting people to commit to, I'm going to take 20 minutes a day for a whole week for myself. And once they do, then things shift, right? Like then they see the benefit of it and they see the changes and they're like, oh, I should have done this sooner. But getting them to commit to the time devoted to themselves. I think that's really the biggest struggle. I mean, because it's put my kid first. It's just what it is, but it should be put you first so you can take care of your kid to the best of your ability.
Yeah, we definitely live in a place where we come last. We always think that we come last. And it's hard. We're conditioned like that. So it's hard to just break that barrier. Like, I get to go first. I need to love me so I can love everybody else. And then we realize that a lot of people don't realize that we only love to the capacity that we love ourselves. So if we're not giving ourselves time, we won't be able to teach our kids how to give their self time.
Yeah.
We're teaching them that it's okay to sacrifice you for other people. And they're just going to take on those traits. And that's not healthy. And you just definitely need to take that me time, self-care, self-love. We got to do it. It's a practice. It seems selfish, but it's actually selfless.
It is.
It's the most selfless thing that you can ever do, because you get to show up in your full capacity and you get everybody around you get a whole different experience of you.
Absolutely.
When you do that. Can you explain to the listeners a little bit different between the meditation and hypnotherapist therapy so they can understand?
Yeah. So if you're doing like you go on YouTube and you do like a guided meditation with affirmations, you're going to say it's for sleep, right? Or whatever it is. You're going to get a general guided meditation. You're going to hear some affirmations. It's going to be peaceful. It's going to be great. When you do specific hypnotherapy, it's similar. So you're doing a guided meditation. You might do affirmations, but it's specific to you. It's specific to what your triggers are, what your current issue is, what you want to see, what changes you want to bring about. And also, instead of being like, oh, you're on a beach and whatever, it's more specific to you, right? So we might incorporate your favorite environment. Things that when you envision it in your mind, it immediately brings you into relaxation. So it's just more specific to you. That's the main difference between guided meditation and hypnotherapy. A lot of people think hypnosis is like stage stuff where you're going to cluck like a chicken and I'm going to control your mind. And none of that's true. That's not, if I could control everybody's mind, that's not how it works. And then regression work is a little bit different. So it's like you go into the hypnotic state and then we have a conversation about what's happening and kind of reframe your thoughts around the event. And that's not something that you can do, pre-recorded. That's different than just meditation.
You have to be in the session because you need someone there to guide you through what you're seeing and what you're hearing and the actual event. So and tell you like, okay, now that you hear this, now what we're going to do is, I kind of understand. Totally understand. I think that hypnotherapist is a good thing because having meditation is good if you just need a quick general relaxation, but like having something tailored to yourself is very powerful because it hits your triggers. It hits exactly what you're going through in that moment so that we can tackle the problem right there. Like instead of like, oh, this is general, it's general. Like, so you're generally hitting the surface. So meditation is more like surface and well, there it goes deep. It's deeper.
Yes. Yeah.
Deep dive. We get to dive.
Absolutely.
To the emotional. Yeah. I think that's better for healing. I do believe that. I think that would be very useful for a lot of women if they take advantage of it.
Exactly.
If you take advantage of it. Like, some people need to go deep dive. Like a lot of people not aware of a lot of things that's going on with them until you dive in. Like we're very surface based. We don't want to go deep. We don't want to see what's going on. We don't want to live in the reality of what's actually going on in our mental state, what's actually holding us back. So we rather just like, this comfortable up here. I'm surface. On the surface. I'm so comfortable.
Yeah.
Where it's not actually that comfortable.
It's not. We just pretend it is. Yeah.
Like people like, oh, I'm in my comfort zone. That is the most uncomfortable place to ever be. It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You won't know how uncomfortable it is until you dive in and start digging stuff out. I'm like, oh, this is actually comfortable right here.
Right. And understanding, having that understanding of why you react to things a certain way. When you're dealing with your kids, a lot of times you react, but it's actually a trigger of yours. There's nothing to do with them. And so differentiating those things and learning your own triggers and how to deal with those helps you not be triggered by them.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people that all the time. It's like, you're triggered. I'm like, no, I can't push a button that was not already there. Like we have buttons that we're not aware. Like, no, this is you. Like, no, it's not. It's a button that's already there. Like I might be pushing it, but it was there before I pushed it. Like, I'm just bringing it to the surface. So you need to explore. Like, it's not me. It's not the person around people around you. It's actually you. So when someone do push the button, you need to understand why that button was pushed.
Yeah,
that's the biggest issue. Understanding why is these buttons being pushed, and what do I need to do to stop them from being pushed?
Yeah. Separating yourself from, your own issues from what's actually going on. Yeah.
Exactly. Because triggers is more like emotions, and they're very liars. Emotional. They make you think a lot of stuff that's not true, and have you doing things that you don't even want to do based on a reality or perspective that's not really happening.
Yep. Yeah.
So understanding that is and exploring that, and hopefully this therapy will help them explore like, oh, this is just like a false reality that I created in my head, and I could get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can definitely get rid of this.
Yeah.
Well, is there any advice that you would like to give the listeners before we leave?
I would say, like I keep saying, take the time for yourself. I think it's so vital, especially as a mother, to just allow yourself to put yourself first. Like the whole oxygen mask in a plane, just allow yourself to put yourself first. Even if you're like, I'll try it for a week. I'm going to put myself first for a week and notice the changes, because, you'll see them for sure. And around with everybody around you, it's going to trickle down.
Make a commitment, stick to it. Even if it's one day at a time, just try it out. Just try it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we leave, can you please let the listeners know where they can find you on social media, and tell them about the offer that you have for them, so that they can find you and take advantage of that, so they can see how this can help.
Yeah. So, Hypnotherapy with Rayne, Rayne. That's my website. All my social media is linked there. All of my social media is essentially the same. It's all Hypnotherapy with Rayne, Rayne. Nobody has stolen that name.
Yeah.
And if you go on my website under the category Empowered Parenting, there's a link you can click, and it's a free guide to techniques to use to stay calm in the morning when your kid's refusing school, which is huge for parents of kids with anxiety. And then there's like a quick meditation attached to that too, like a short guided meditation attached to that too. And all my information's on there. But I do have an old YouTube channel that has relaxation meditations on there as well. It's linked on my website. I haven't uploaded anything there in a while, but there's some free meditations on there.
Well, I will have all that linked below in the show notes, so y'all can just click on it and go find her. All her social media also, and her website, so you can get access to that free guides. Well, that's it for this episode of our Sisters Love Podcast. But before you go, I would love to invite you to our support group. And this support group, it is exclusively for the podcast listeners. Inside this group, you get access to exclusive resources. You get the support that you need. And you also might get to meet some of these wonderful guests that we had on the podcast. And this is a judge-free zone. So you don't have to worry about feeling alone or overwhelmed and unsupported again. So if you want to be part of the support group, all you have to do is sign up for our mailing list. And once you sign up, you will get instant access to the support group. Now, that's it for today's episode. Signing out, your sister through love, Rose.